Yeah, brother. To answer your question, my pro record is 0-1. I was a black belt in karate, had wrestled in high school, boxed a little bit, and I ran into this Muay Thai teacher. Suppose it's here. He really didn't know any Muay Thai. And he booked me a fight in Tijuana, Mexico. I was living in San Diego, where I grew up from I was 14 till about 29. And I fought that guy you see behind me, Pete Dickinson. Now, Dickinson had a lot more experience than me at the time. But to understand that moment, the what you see behind you in the ring there, that's not Tijuana. I mean, I fought him in Tijuana with the same trainers you see, Marshall Hamill and Steve Rodarty for him. But then I came back and I rematched him amateur in Whittier under Rodarty's promotion about 2 months later. And that's how you just have to understand kickboxing was in those days. And first of all, you can see, even though I'm fighting him amateur there's no headgear, there's no shin guards. I mean, that's just how we did it back then. I mean, what was amateur and what was professional really became a function of the commission. Like, if it was a professional fight, you had to pay the commission a lot more. So what savvy promoters like Rodarty did is they'd throw guys in there under amateur fights and they wouldn't say anything about being amateur. And I think that's how kickboxing ran for a really long time. There was a guy, I think his name was Mullins, who talked about that. Pedro Pitbull Fernandez, who was an old sparring partner of mine, fought in K1 against Rick Rufus. It was the one Rick Rufus won in Vegas, the first K1 in the United States. And Mullins made the point, like, you didn't invite me. And Pedro's an amateur fighter. He had like 13 amateur fights. You think he was 13-0 when he got knocked out by Rufus. But, the lines blurred back then. It's not like boxing. Boxing is a very defined amateur group and professional group. And MMA's done their best to be good about that, right? Like, amateurs can't use elbows in almost any place I've been, and sometimes not knees either. So it's a little bit different than the pro ranks. But for me, that happened in the late 90s. By 2000, I was off in Kosovo, and then after that I was in prison 8 years. When I got out, MMA was rocking, right? It was 2008, and I started training with MMA teams and stuff like that, and my striking was a lot better than most of theirs, but my ground game was just absolutely devoid. And one of the things my book's about is the perils of the fight game. That guy, Marshall Hamill, that big bald guy behind me, he used me, man. He set me up like a bowling pin. He used to set me up in practice. He set me up in fights. And that's how the fight game is. Fight game's like a street corner. If you think you're going to pop on a street corner and start dealing with people and get fair treatment, you're wrong. Same thing for the fight game. Now, listen, the fight game's changed a lot. Why? Because it's so popular. So many people are fighting. So it's less street corner-like and more regulated, and, there's more rules to it. But the perils of the fight game remain the same, and I talk about that in my book, Warrior of the Light. It's kind of a guide for those looking to fight, because there was no guide for me, man. I mean, I'll tell you what, like, fighting was so, had a lack of popularity then that you were on your own. You had to figure it out, and you usually figured it out at the hands of other people. Harry Vaccaro, who actually trained me for my last fight, he went through the same thing I did. The difference between me and Harry is he didn't get involved in criminality and jet off to Kosovo and go to jail. Like, Harry stayed in it and then got a winning record and he won a title in a different federation. And, but everybody was handled the same. I'm not claiming like I had foul treatment and poor me, but was I as good as a lot of those guys at the time? Yeah, like I stopped Jack Thames, who became a pro Muay Thai guy in Vegas after that. And, I could have had a career, but unfortunately at that time, my focus wasn't on that. My focus was on quick money, and there was no money at all in kickboxing back then. And MMA was still underground, man. So yeah, there it is. Read my book, War of the Light. You like